Hello and welcome. This is the Doug channel. In this video we're going to be installing Oracle Enterprise Linux 7.7 in preparation for additional configuration and additional software installs of Oracle products. Just a quick overview here. I am going to install this into Oracle Enterprise, into VirtualBox 6. So here's the VirtualBox 6.1. It's 12 release 139181. So again, it should function for later releases as well, the same way. Might be enhanced, but let's get busy. So first I'm going to create a new VM, and I'm going to title this one DB Source, DBSRC. I'm going to go ahead and change my default directory, and I'm going to go to my iDrive here and new folder. Oh wait, let me see, is this one empty? This is an empty folder, DB Source, so I'm going to select it. Had it already created. I'm going to say do not add a virtual disk, and I'm going to change this to 8192. Now we're going to go back and add our virtual disks. Let's 8192. That's better. Okay, so now we've got this created, DB Source. Now we're going to go into settings, and under system you can see we've got 8192. I'm going to remove floppy drive. I'm going to go to processor tab, and I'm going to change that to 4 CPUs. I actually have 16 CPUs on this system, so 32 threads to work with, so I'm going to set this to 4. I'm going to leave the display options as is. I'm going to change storage. So right now we've got a empty serial ATA drive. So we're going to go ahead and select this, and we're going to point it at the OEL7.7 ISO. Okay, we're going to add another controller. And let's see. Let's just add it as a virtual SCSI. Shouldn't really matter. Now we're going to add a piece of storage to it. This first piece we're going to create is going to be the boot partition, and we're going to set it to 256 megabytes. We're going to say fixed size, because I don't like when VMs have to wait to reallocate more space, and it's going to create relatively quickly. And we're going to, if we scroll all the way down, we'll see it down here on the bottom. DB Source, where did it go? Not attached. DB Source boot, and choose. Okay, we're going to add another piece, and this is going to be our swap. So underscore swap, so we know what it is. And I'm actually going to set this to 17 gig, even though I'm only going to use 16 gig of swap. Set it to fixed size and create. And again, it creates relatively quickly on my systems because I'm using NVMe storage, which is super fast. If you're using SSDs, it'll take a little longer, and a classic spinning disk will probably even take longer. So you can see it's highlighted here, so we're just going to select choose. And finally we're going to add one more, and this one is going to be our root partition. And I'm going to set this to 101, even though it says I'm only going to use 100. I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger. It makes it nicer for the installer. So I'm going to go ahead and select create, and this one's going to take about a minute for it to complete the creation process. Okay, it's just about done and it finished. I'm going to scroll down here and make sure it's highlighted and choose. Okay, so those are our main three components for storage: a boot partition, a root partition, and a swap partition. We're going to leave audio unchanged. We're going to go to network. We're going to change this to a bridged adapter so it has access to the internet. And then we're going to say OK. And now we're going to go ahead and do a normal start. Now it does take a minute to allocate the memory, start spinning it all up. You'll get a pop-up that says starting virtual machine. Unfortunately, it started on a different screen. I'm waiting for it to for that pop-up to actually go away, and now I can bring it over. And here you see we have the splash screen for the installer. So we're going to up arrow once and then press enter. And now this is going to grind for about a minute or so until we can actually get the installer screen up. You'll see some things on the screen. Pay no attention, just wait patiently. And you can see it's starting the installer, loading packages, doing a RAM drive, it's getting it all spun up. And we're almost there. Okay, so we can see the installer has appeared on screen. This is the initial. I'm going to select English and English, and then I'm going to press continue. Now on this next screen you can see it says under software it's downloading group metadata and setting up installation source. I found that it's best to wait for these to finish before attempting to go forward, because the interface is very sluggish until those are done, because it's so busy analyzing the installation packages and such. Okay, now you can see it says checking software dependencies, and again these do take a little bit to complete, so just be patient and let them finish. Okay, now that they've finished, it's actually going to do it again, because what we're going to do is we're going to change the software selection, and we're going to say server with GUI, and we're also going to scroll all the way down to the bottom here and select system administration tools as well. We're going to select done, and again it's going to go through checking software dependencies for the installation source and the software selection, so just give it a minute and let it finish. Okay, we can see that it finished and those exclamation points have gone away, so let's go through it. Date and time, you can select your locality. I'm actually in Phoenix, so I'm going to select Phoenix and then done. I'm going to leave network time protocol off. None of those servers seem to be active that are built in, so just leave NTP off for now. We can always find an NTP server and set it later. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to Kdump, and I'm going to disable Kdump by removing the check and select done. I'm going to go into the security policy and I'm going to turn it to off, and I'm going to say done, and then I'm going to go into the network configuration. First thing I'm going to do is put in the host name, which is DBSRC, and we're going to hit apply, and we see that that's changed. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on, and we're going to see that we get a IP address automatically assigned. Okay, I'm actually going to configure this to a manual IP address, so I'm going to select configure. I am going to change my MTU to 9000 just because that's something I always do with infrastructure. And then I'm going to go into my IPv4 settings. I'm going to change it to manual. I'm going to add, and I'm going to set it to 192.168.168.0.126. I'm going to leave the net mask and 92.168.0.1. And for DNS servers, a little secret if you don't know, you can leave it blank and it'll just use your local configuration and figure out DNS fine. But you can also tell it 8.8.8.8, which is a Google DNS server. And then let's 192.168.0.1 just for good luck. Okay. And so we like that, so we're just going to hit save. And it's going to refresh, and we should get an IPv6 address, so that means it's all good to go. So we're going to select done. So next thing we need to do is select our storage and installation destination. So we have our boot, our swap, and our root. So what I recommend is putting a check in all three, and then say I will configure partitioning. Okay, and that'll give us the opportunity to specify specifically how we want the installation to be done. Now in this screen, leave this to LVM, select plus, and type in we want the root mount point, and we're going to set it to 100 gigabytes, and that's 100, and it likes G, lowercase I, capital B. Okay. Next we're going to add, and this is going to be our swap, and we're going to make this 16GIB, and we're going to say add mount point. Now it puts a swap into a LVM, and we're going to actually change that in a minute. And finally we're going to select our boot, and we're going to tell it 256 MIB. And it's actually going to give us 255, which is fine. It has to be, it should be at least 200, or the installer will balk at you. So now I'm going to choose modify and make sure that my boot is only using that drive. And then I'm going to go down here to my swap. Now, the reason I clicked already, it takes a minute for it to register and think. It's actually evaluating all your configuration information. So on this one, I'm going to change swap to a standard partition. It's going to be swap, reformat, and I'm going to say modify and make sure he only gets STB. And then I'm going to say select. And we're going to verify that that doesn't change. Okay, now you can see it actually changed that to 8704, and we actually want 16 GIB. So we're going to click there, click there, and then click here, which gives it time to evaluate and think and make sure. And it's still insisting on only 8704, which is really odd because so let's do it just a little bit different. So let's see, what if we tell it 16384? Didn't like that. 16384. And let's let it think about that, see if it'll change it for us to 16 gig or not. See, I'm still having an issue with this, so we're just going to go ahead and accept this, and after the first reboot and whatnot, we'll just add another 8 gig. You know what? Let's go ahead and change this to LVM RAID. It's using that. Let's see if LVM will do it at 16384. 16384. I found the installer is really weird when it comes to setting up your own storage on these systems. So let's see what that one thinks about. Ah, there we go. We finally got our 16 gig. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and, so we like that. We've got our boot as a standard. That's 100 gig for our root partition, and our swap, it's using LVM. Should be no big deal. LVM should start before swap comes up anyway. So we're going to go ahead and select done. This is going to give us a list of changes that it's going to complete. So we're just going to accept those changes, and now we're ready to begin the installation. So we're going to go ahead and hit begin installation. Now we have two things to do here while it's doing the install. First is set the root password, because this is a VM and simple and very private. I usually set it to a single character, the first letter of the username. You'll see a note here that the password is too short, so you have to press done twice to get it to be accepted. And the same thing, user. I'm going to create user1, and I'm going to user1. I'm going to make it an administrator, and password is you. Again, it's too short, so I press done twice, and we're golden. So it's starting the package installation process, and this is actually going to take quite a while. Even on my system, I have lots of memory, lots of CPU, and very fast storage, but you can expect on a fast system 30 minutes for the install. So it's right now starting package installation, and then it will start counting up the packages to install. So I'll go ahead and pause this, and we'll pick it up as it starts install. Okay, so you can see it's starting, and it's got 1,381 packages to go. So we're going to let it run. Again, be patient. You could be looking at 30 to 60 minutes depending on the speed of your system. Okay, so we're getting close to finishing the package installations components. Again, 1,381 packages installed, and it's been running for a fair queue. Now, just a reminder, and I know you're probably getting all excited when you see yours get to this point, that you're almost done. But there's still plenty to do as part of the install, so it's still going to take a fair amount more time. As you'll see, once we finish these packages, it's going to begin what it refers to as post-installation steps. So it's got to do that, it's got to configure Grub, the bootloader, and it's also going to need to generate the initial RAM file system. So that's going to take a little bit of time. As you can see, we're starting the post-installation setup tasks now, and again, there's a fair amount of processing going on, so just be patient. Now you'll notice the progress bar being way over here. Once we get past the post-installation setup tasks, the progress bar will actually move back a little bit. So don't be surprised when you see that. Okay, you can see it finished the post. Now it started the init RAM FS, and again this is going to take a few minutes, so by all means be very patient. Okay, so we can see that it finished. So we're going to go ahead and hit the reboot. And again, we're going to have to go through the first boot process where we accept the license agreement before it actually comes up. So we can see it's restarting the system. And we'll just let it do its thing. Now, when you get to this graphical splash screen with the spinning Java spikes, you can always click in the window there and press escape once it appears. Okay, we didn't get spinning. Sorry about that. So it was the snakes along the bottom. But we're coming up here on first boot. Okay, so network and host name, and we're wired and connected, but our license has not been accepted. So you can click in here. I don't know if you need to scroll down. You just select I accept the license agreement. And obviously you want to read it. But once you're all done, then you can say finish configuration, and we'll restart again. Actually, it's not a full restart. It's a continuation of the last restart, actually. And here we are. We can log in as our user1 user, or we can log in as root. If we want to log in as root, we would select not listed, type root, our password is R. Now, on first login, there's going to be some questions and settings it wants us to play with and agree to, and so on. So don't be surprised; those only take a minute to next, and skip on out of them. So there's our default desktop, and here it is. So welcome, just say next, English next, privacy next, online accounts skip, start using the server. Okay, and then a getting started window comes up. You're welcome to go through all of these if you're unfamiliar with Linux. The next thing I would recommend doing is going here into System Tools and Settings, because I'm unhappy with the 800 by 600 screen size. A lot of things don't seem to fit. So if you go to Devices, you'll be on Display Resolution, and I'm at 1024 by 768. So I think I'm going to need to figure out a way to increase that. So for right now, I will just X this out, and we'll do a shutdown and a power off. And as soon as it finishes the power off, we'll go back into him, and here I want you to select snapshots, and take a snapshot. And I usually call this base. And initial install, and we did server with GUI and administration tools. And that's pretty much it. So again, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and continue on with the next episode where we'll go about configuring more of this, getting it prepared for our Oracle software installations. Thanks and have a great day.